of all, our governing body, or the guys at the top, is Softball Canada. And then underneath Softball Canada, we have Softball Alberta, and we have the Softball Alberta Umpires Association. And Adrian, if we can go to the next slide, what we want to do is we want to introduce you tonight to some of the ground rules. One of them being that we're going to be recording this session, and that's why we have all of your cameras shut off, because it's for privacy reasons until we get you comfortable enough to be part of our group. We wanted to make sure that nobody was embarrassed or felt uncomfortable being online. Then what we're going to get into is we're going to get into pre-submitted questions that have been presented to us. And we've got a few people that are going to talk about each of these questions to give you some answers and some insight into what being an umpire is all about. And then we're going to have an open mic session where you submitted questions are available, and also you can raise some new questions so that, again, we could get through a lot of the questions that you have on what it is to be an umpire. And then what next? And we're going to have a little bit of a session on where to go, what to do, who to talk to, because what we're going to do tonight is talk to you about basically the overall ideals of becoming an umpire, because every zone in our province is a little bit different. So if I get you to go to the next slide. Okay, when we talk about the Alberta Softball Umpires Association, we're basically broken up into 8 different zones. So when we're talking about answering specific questions about pay and other very specific questions, we're going to tell you guys that everybody's a little bit different. And to our benefit, we've got representation from Zone 3, Zone 4, Zone 8, Zone 6, and Zone 5. So we've got a pretty good group here as far as covering the province, and you can see our province is pretty big. So the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is that as we're talking about training and we're talking about different things over the night, is we're basically falling back on what we call the umpire toolbox, or the instructor toolbox, or the evaluator toolbox. So these are tools that are developed through Softball Canada by involvement by everybody across Canada to try and standardize everything we do. And we try really hard to standardize and to keep it simple. Next slide. So our presenters tonight that I get the pleasure of introducing is going to be Adrian Gaudet. And Adrian is from Fairview, and that's way up north in that Zone 8. And then we have Bio-Kessiah Robertson, and she's out of Calgary, and she's our newbie for tonight. And then we have Adrian and Wattamaniuk. If I said that right, Adrian?
Wattamaniuk.
Gosh, I knew I was going to know that. And then
you tried. That's all that matters.
And he's called Up in the Corner. Now, what's that mean? Up and comer? I don't know what that means. What's an up and comer, Adrian?
I think you could say someone who's still relatively new, but working his way up the system.
And then we have Charday. Charday is our busy nurse, and we're not kidding. Charday works shift work. She's going to talk to you a little bit about how difficult it is, how easy it is to balance everything, because at different times it is both easy and difficult. So Charday, the busy nurse. Next. So I'm going to hand it off to Adrian, and Adrian's going to start to talk to you guys about why did I become an umpire. Adrian, please.
Alrighty, so I got into umpiring, would have been, I think I was going into high school, grade 9, in Ontario. I grew up around the ball diamond. My mom coached for probably 20 years before I was born. And it just, I needed something to do at the ball diamond once I decided I didn't want to play anymore. And I got into umpiring mostly because I could make some money. And also to finance a shoe habit that hasn't gotten any better, as you can see behind me. But that's not really why I kept going. So I moved out to Fredericton, New Brunswick in 2011. And I wasn't going to keep umpiring when I got out there, but I made some friends out there that kept me involved. And went off to at this point, I think it's 7 Canadian championships, and kept me involved and going from province to province. So it was 2015, I moved to Alberta, and it's just been a really good way to make some friends, and keep involved. Like, whatever community I go to, it's another way to say, hey, let's see what's going on and meet some more people. At this point, I think I've met everybody on the presenter side of the ball diamond except Kessiah. And then some. So my first question I got was, how much can I earn umpiring? So that varies, depending on where you are, what you're doing. Comes out somewhere around $30 a game. You can make $700-900 doing 3 nights a week in May and June. You can make more if you want. You can make less if you want. It all depends on what you're willing to do, what you want to do. Tournaments are a really great way, because you make a couple $100 going there. And when you get paid varies. It can be cash, check, interact. And a few places will pay you there at the game, but a lot of places it's paid throughout the season. Weekends, you're usually paid before you leave, if not really soon after. Remote locations. I am really good at this one. I live in the middle of nowhere. I'm about an hour north of Grand Prairie right now. And I go to a lot of tournaments. I am probably gone. I think Chris and I see each other at tournaments almost every other weekend, eh, Chris?
Yeah, that's a fact.
I'm often travel costs are covered. At least my gas is covered. Depending on what tournament it is, they may cover more, they may cover less. But it's also a great way to learn, a great way to meet new people. That's probably the best part about umpiring is I take that chance to go and travel, and I meet 10 new people that for a weekend are basically your best friends, because I think we have a fire or a meal almost every Friday, Saturday night. And it's just a great way to meet new people. And cost. So cost to be an umpire. It's will help you get started. There's always ways for us to make it more affordable. Subsidies for new umpires. I know Calgary Minor, they provide some equipment, whereas you look at up here last year, Grand Prairie Minor Softball gave our umpires a subsidy for buying new equipment, buying shirts, pants, all the stuff that you need to really get going. There's always different ways. We have veteran umpires that'll send new equipment, things like that. Uniforms. You don't have to have them right away, but we'd like you to at least look the part. So that might mean getting a powder blue golf shirt and some dark gray pants. But as you move up, the goal is we would like you to eventually buy the uniform, especially if you want to do things like a provincial or anything beyond that. And I think that's it for me, Chris. Is there anything else you got to add there?
Yeah, I just want to really emphasize, as we get new umpires starting, I mean, we've had umpires that, as long as they're brand new, have worn sweats and they've worn their baseball shoes. Like, the goal here is to look good, but not necessarily spend a bunch of money until you're comfortable that you're really enjoying the thing. What do you think, Adrian? You agree with that?
100%. I mean, my first couple of years, I'm pretty sure I was wearing a cotton navy t-shirt and my dad's dress pants. Now you go into my bag now, there's definitely no cotton navy t-shirts. There's a little bit more.
And 3 or 4 versions of uniforms, as I recall.
Plus my baseball ones. I think I'm up to like 6.
And then the other thing that we like to raise is a lot of the teams and a lot of the associations have umpire gear at their ball diamonds. So they'll have a mask, they'll have a pair of shin pads if you need them, and a chest protector. So it's what we do is we make sure that we help the new umpires get organized when we start the season.
Yeah. All right.
I think that's it.
That's it. That's all. The next up is
Kessiah.
Hi, I'm Kessiah. I'm one of the newer umpires here. I'm a first-year university student, so I'm not actually in Alberta right now, but I will be for the season. I started in 2019, so I got one full season before kind of the pandemic ruined that. So I'm super excited to get back to it, do as many games as I can. I started because I had been playing for a lot of years, and I wasn't able to keep doing that with just scheduling and a lot of other factors, but umping was a great way for me to just kind of stay on the diamond and involved with softball, as well as the schedule is super flexible, so that wasn't something that I had to factor in quite so much. So that was really appealing for me, was the scheduling. I continue just because it's something I really enjoy doing. It's a great way to, as Adrian was saying, be involved with a community of people. I've met a lot of really awesome people through it, and I'm super excited to keep going. All right, so the question I got asked was about if you're a new umpire worried about age, do you get to pick the level of ball that you do, and will there be someone there to help you? And absolutely, there is so much help available to you from older umpires and mentors. Being nervous about age is totally understandable. You will never be placed in a situation that you aren't able to handle. So when you start out, you'll definitely be assigned to lower aged games, and you'll be able to kind of develop your skills that you need to work those higher aged games. And as you're learning, you will have a lot of guidance from other umpires. Most zones, I think, have some sort of mentorship program. So this means that there will be an older, experienced umpire assigned to help you and answer any questions that you have on the diamond. And while they might not be there during every game, as you go further into the season, they will make sure that you are well equipped to handle any situation, and they'll be there to answer any questions that you possibly have. As well, there is the zero tolerance policy from coaches. So we don't tolerate any abuse for our younger umpires. That's really, really strictly enforced, just to make sure that you're comfortable, and coaches know that you're learning on the field, so you never really have to worry about too much pressure there. As well, I know personally, I took the course with my dad when I was doing it. So for parents, that's a really great way to make sure that younger umpires are comfortable. And I know as well that some people will take the course as a part of a team, like a lot of members of a team will do it. So it's very community-based, and you'll have support the whole way. So no need to worry about age. Chris, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. So what's the worst thing that's happened to you on a ball diamond in a game?
Oh, I can't think of anything past maybe making a wrong call and someone
And
questioning
making-
it.
and that created a lot of personal pressure on you, didn't it?
Yeah.
How did the coaches react?
Oh, they're pretty forgiving. As long as you're kind of confident in what you're doing. If you don't necessarily want to like change your call, but recognize that you made a mistake. Mistakes do happen, and coaches totally understand that.
So I always talk about it because maybe I've been doing it for so long that I look at it as a learning environment and a safe haven for umpires.
Yes.
Would you agree that that is true, being a new person to our game?
Absolutely.
Okay. How many times does a coach make a mistake?
Just as many.
It's true, isn't it?
Sometimes you'll be questioned, but you had it right the whole time, and they're okay with that too. So
And that is where you said having a little bit of confidence that your mentors have been there to teach you right. You dove into the rule book to kind of get a good grasp of the rules. And now you've made a mistake or you didn't make a mistake. And sometimes you feel the same both times, right? Because you're in retrospect doubting yourself.
absolutely, yeah.
So it's the biggest lesson that we learn when we start out is just to get comfortable with who you are. And if somebody does something wrong, tell them. If a coach approaches you and they're making you feel uncomfortable, you got to tell them because they can't read your mind.
Yeah.
So what's the best thing that's happened to you in a ball game? What's your aha moment?
Oh, that's a good question. One of my favorite things is just watching when someone makes a really great play and you get to make that call for them. I had one play where there was a kid playing third base who'd kind of been struggling the whole game, and she made a perfect tag and you got to make the out call, and that was just really exciting to see. And the coaches appreciate that too.
So do the coaches and the players appreciate it when you make a really good sell call?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and that's all I had, unless I've raised something else for you to think about.
I think that's about it for me.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Adrian.
Hello. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Adrian Wattamaniuk, the other Adrian, Adrian 2, Adrian W, whatever you like. Doesn't matter to me.
Just tell them you're the better looking one.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I was ever in dispute. Sorry, Adrian.
I get better dressed at least. Okay.
All right. I'll let you have that one.
And more shoes.
And more shoes. I'm not going to even attempt to claim that one. I'm a level 3 umpire. I started umpiring in 2016. Just like personally, I'm a third-year electrical engineering student at the University of Alberta as well. So that's kind of what's going on in the majority of my life. I've umpired kind of at all levels, from U10 all the way up to men's. I've been fortunate enough to attend a couple of major tournaments as well, as included Alberta Summer Games, U14 Western Canadians, and probably the best one was U16 Canadians in 2019. I've also kind of taken on like small roles and stuff as like an assigner or a mentor, and a bit of an instructor at lower levels over the years. Bit of a fun fact about me is that I've never actually played a competitive game of fast pitch. This always makes me a huge outlier with most people who have umpired. Most of our umpires either are younger people who have just come off of playing fast pitch, or people who have played some form their entire lives, or parents whose kids played. I'm none of the above. I was going to start playing in that year that I ended up started umpiring in 2016. But unfortunately, my team didn't have enough players, which is unfortunately becoming a pretty common case for boys and men's fast pitch in Alberta. But one of the organizers came up to me and asked if I had any interest in umpiring, and I said yes, and here we are 6 years later. So it was very much trial by fire, never having really seen the game from that perspective, but meant I didn't pick up a ton of bad habits, and I was able to get into umpiring pretty quickly. So that's a pretty good example of umpiring kind of being something that anybody can get into, no matter what your experience with the game. I got into it, if I'm being honest, mostly for the money. I was in grade 9. I wanted money to buy some things for myself. But since then, I've just had the chance to meet so many incredible people. It gets you outside, it gets you doing something. And overall, it's just a really great community experience. So that's kind of why I stayed in the game. Moving to my questions. Thank you, Adrian. How old do I need to be? This is a question I've heard a lot. And like I said, I'll preface by the fact that this is something that can vary quite significantly by association. So different associations have different rules, especially with the kind of, different levels that you might be umpiring. It's going to vary quite significantly. Generally, from what I've seen, for minor associations, they allow people to start umpiring around age 12. And you could potentially even umpire even younger than that if you have a parent or guardian umpiring with you. So in minor ball especially, we generally tend to encourage that umpires only be umpiring age groups their age or lower, typically younger than the umpire is best. So if you're 12, it might be good for you to be umpiring the U10s. Just generally makes you a little bit more comfortable and gives you a little bit more authority on the diamond. I will say I have been in situations where I've been umpiring age groups older than me. When I was 17, I think I umpired a few like U19 games where most of the players were my age or a little bit older. So it is possible, but especially at the beginning, it's generally good to be umpiring your groups, and your zone will try to make that work. Some zones will assign 2 umpires to all levels of ball. Some will only assign 1, except for training. But generally, if you're a younger umpire, you're not going to get put on the diamond right by yourself from the beginning. You'll generally have a mentor umpire who might be able to help you out, potentially a parent who's been doing it for a little while, and that will kind of allow you to work on your game while not being completely on your own in case there are some tough decisions. So basically the rule is if you have a way to get the games and you feel that you're mature enough to umpire, you should be good to go. Additionally, associations are generally pretty good at putting younger umpires with more senior umpires, especially at the beginning, so you won't be out on the field alone. I will say as well that an early start to umpiring is a great opportunity to learn really valuable life skills. It's helped me develop a lot of skills in my life, whether it be communication or conflict resolution, or just generally being able to deal with people who are older than me. I'm dealing with a lot of, adult coaches, and that's a completely different style than you're used to when you're 16 years old. In order to make sure our younger umpires have a great experience, generally they'll need to be 16 before they can start ascending to like a level 2 status and starting to go to provincials. But that doesn't mean there aren't opportunities for our younger umpires. So that's generally kind of the deal with how old you need to be. So you can move on to the next question. Oh, my next question not on there.
Well, then just go, just freestyle it and go.
All right. Next question is not on the screen, but it was, can I still take the clinic if I'm only interested in learning the rules and not sure if I want to umpire? And the answer to this is absolutely you can. Rule clinics are a fantastic way to better understand the rules of the game, which is really helpful for everyone who's kind of in and around the game. I know as an umpire, I've definitely seen my fair share of parents or coaches who were really confident that they knew the rule when they really didn't. So if you're going to be taking that initiative to go to a rule clinic and get a better understanding of kind of how things work from an umpire perspective and learn those rules and mechanics a little bit better, you're going to be way better off whether you're watching, coaching, whatever it happens to be. Parents or siblings might want to take the course, see if it's something that they might enjoy. It can be a little bit of a taste of what umpiring might look like. And if you do get that certification and let's say you're called to umpire a game because your game doesn't have an umpire, you can then get paid if you have your level 1 certification or a rookie certification from your association. Many associations will also put on like special parent or non-carded abbreviated clinics, as they're typically called, to give a bit of a small taste of the most common rules. So these are generally going to be shorter than like a full-on level 1 clinic and just give you really the basics. But this can still be really helpful for debunking a lot of misunderstood rules and giving you the basics of how you would go about umpiring a game in a more professional way. I really recommend you kind of check out your association and see if they offer anything like this. But if not, even a level 1 clinic is typically just a weekend. So that can be a really great way to kind of get into the world of umpiring, even if you don't intend to be an umpire who's being assigned to games. So that's kind of it for those 2 questions. I will let Chris jump in if he has any comments on either of those.
Well, I got something behind the scenes from Jeff, and Jeff was saying, hey, nobody's asked any questions so far. So he's challenged me to wake everybody up and say, hey, if you got some questions, throw them on the chat board here so that Jeff can start to dive into them and make sure that we answer them. And also, tell me, Adrian, what was your most exciting moment in fastball so far?
Oh, that's a good one. I would have to say Alberta Summer Games. That was in 2018. So that was probably that would have been my 3rd year of umpiring. So I was still relatively new to the game. It was a huge honor to be able to go up there. That was my first tournament outside of Edmonton. It was up in Grand Prairie, kind of by where other Adrian is at right now. It was super fancy, great diamonds. I was still a young kid, super pleased to be in like a free hotel and getting free food and all that stuff. And then I was lucky enough to get assigned the gold medal game, which was super exciting. It went to extra innings. I was the plate umpire, and I was just feeling the adrenaline the whole time. It was a really upbeat environment. We had a lot of parents out to watch the game. I had, the whole crew was watching that game. So the rest of the umpires that I kind of gotten to know over the last few days and I traveled up to Grand Prairie with, as well as my UIC and DEUICs, or umpire in chief and deputy umpire in chief, were there watching. Got a lot of good feedback afterwards, and generally the game went really, really well, and was an exciting one to watch. So I would say that was definitely my most exciting experience on the field, and that one will stick with me for a while.
So I tend to agree with Adrian, because Adrian, number one, often comments about the people we meet in this journey we call umpiring. And would you agree that that's probably one of the other benefits of getting into this program?
Oh, definitely. And it's such a diverse group of people, right? You got people of all ages, all different kinds of backgrounds. People have gotten into the game in different ways, but you have that one common denominator of, softball. So when you're talking to people at different tournaments, there are all these differences, but you can always come back to the game and have that as a common denominator. And everyone's appreciating being there. Everyone's having a good time. And, you build connections that you get to carry on for a long time. I was lucky enough to, in 2019, go out to a couple of tournaments in Vancouver. I made some friends out there that I've, been back to visit a couple of times. So just, stuff like that. People you wouldn't have otherwise had any reason in the world to meet, that you then get to meet and can build those kind of lifelong connections with.
Hey, Adrian, do you ever get nervous when you're umpiring?
Do I ever? I remember my first game was one of the most nerve-wracking experiences of my life, and it's something that's kind of stuck with me ever since. And I think that's honestly a good thing in a lot of ways. Keeping a little bit of those nerves prevents you from getting complacent, right? It keeps you in the game. It keeps you aware of everything that's going on, and it makes you want to do your best and want to succeed. But obviously that can get a little bit overwhelming at times. And I think those nerves that can be a little bit more problematic tend to fade after, your first few games, your first few seasons. And, as you ascend to different levels of ball, you get a little bit more comfortable with kind of the situations that you can deal with. But certainly no reason to be ashamed if you're nervous. I'm still nervous umpiring a U14 game after 6 years of umpiring sometimes, because I want to do my best and I want to make sure that the players are getting the best experience they can. So definitely a valid thing to feel, but certainly not crippling, and something you learn to kind of work with and make a bit of your friend as you umpire.
Thank you. That's so interesting, because when you get started, there's a lot of nerves. As you get longer and toothed in the game, you start to have less of those nerves. But I got to be honest, I went and did senior men's in Saskatoon last year, and I was nervous. There is no doubt about it. So, I mean, that's absolutely one of the benefits of the game, is it makes sure that you're alive.
It sure does.
Hey, yeah, let's move on, because I think we got Charday next, don't we?
Yeah. Hey guys, so I'm Charday Motley, and I started umpiring in 2013. I came out of a small town in Zone 7, actually. It was Hughenden, Alberta, really close to Wainwright. And I grew up mostly on the ball diamond. My sister played ball, my dad played baseball, and my dad also umpired as well. So I really got into umpiring for the fact that I wanted to challenge myself and try to put myself into a role I wasn't really comfortable with and break out of my shell, because I was a little bit shy and timid, and I wanted to get more outspoken and work on some conflict resolution skills, which umpiring can teach you a lot of skills that can be transferable into life and professional life, especially I found in my professional life of being a nurse. I ended up going to university in Edmonton, and now that's where I am living, as I work in the Stollery Children's Hospital as a registered nurse now. And being a busy nurse, I work 12-hour shifts. I actually just got off of work just like half an hour, like 45 minutes ago, and just ended up being able to get home to talk to you guys. And I would say around 2017 is where kind of my umpiring career took off. It was a bit of a turning point for it, as I went to a province-wide umpiring clinic in Red Deer, And I was able to meet a whole bunch of like great experienced mentors, and I got to see really how far you could go into a career with umpiring. Like we had one person from Edmonton who just recently left due to professional reasons, but she actually was umpiring in the Olympics last year. And there's been lots of people that have done like international assignments. So that's been really the one big way why I continue to umpire, because I know how much farther I can take it. And I myself personally, I've been able to go, or fortunate enough to go to 2 Canadian championships, 2 Western championships, and I got to attend Blue Convention in Montreal, and I got my level 4 theory, and I've been able to get my instructor evaluator certificate. So making a lot new friends, having some fun and some laughs. And then we'll go on to my first question.
Before you do that, Charday, you mentioned somebody who went to the Olympics. Whoa, big flag went up. Who was that? Where is she now? What's she doing?
Frankie Berensleek. I was actually very fortunate enough to be going to MacEwan University, and that's where she was working at the time, where I was taking my degree in Bachelor of Science in Nursing. So I was able to pick her brain almost twice a week every lunch break and just go over rules, and she taught me a lot. But she unfortunately left to go to Toronto just due to the fact of what's been happening sadly in our province with the public sector. But
yeah, so she's now working in Ontario, and she's actually the chair of our ODC, which is a group of people that get together at the very highest levels to talk about recruitment and retention. So I get to talk to her regularly, and I bet you probably talk to her regularly as well.
Yeah, we still catch up, and I imagine she'll definitely be out for a few games she's mentioned too. So if you get into umpiring, you can get to pick her brain and see how that experience was.
Would you ever go to the Olympics? Would you want to aspire to do that and follow her?
So my goal, I actually just got into hockey recently around like 4 years ago. It's been like 3 seasons now I've been doing it. As she also referees basketball and does a duo sport. So I have now been aspiring to kind of take her journey, but my passion more lies with hockey. And I really want to end up going to the Winter Olympics and the Summer Olympics. Unfortunately, right now, we are kind of in a rough point with softball might not, or fast pitch might not be in the next oncoming Olympics in Paris, but hopefully it can get back added in the future. And if unfortunately not, there's so many like international events, like World Championships that you can go to and aspire to be at.
Terrific. I took you off track, but I'll let you get back to your question. But thank you for that,
Okay,
because
thanks.
I think that was pretty neat where somebody in our program got to go to the Olympics.
So my first question was, what if I work on weeknights? Can I still fit umpiring into my schedule? Well, I'm great to answer that, as I work a lot of weeknights. And you definitely can, because your umpiring schedule can be flexible to whatever you can work. And it all depends on your zone. But I know here in Edmonton, we usually have double headers every night from Monday to Thursday. And then usually anywhere in the province, there's a tournament going on from Friday to Sunday. So there's usually ball almost every single night. And I know sometimes in Edmonton, we do have junior high slow pitch. So it depends if you're going to get into the fast pitch side of it or the slow pitch side of it. But we have those games that start usually after school, but you have to get in contact with your local representative just to see what games are available to you. As I know when I was in zone 7 starting up, that we only had usually games every like Monday and Wednesdays, or like Thursdays and Tuesdays. It depended which night was the home night for the place you were in. But usually if you are in like a rural area, they're always going to be looking for umpires. And like some people would get my name and contact from like an hour away, and they'll be like, we want you to come umpire our game. Can you please come for like this night? And I was free, and they pay your mileage. So yeah. And was I was going to talk about? So my personal life, I'm a registered nurse. I work 12-hour shifts, and like I just came off of a day shift, and then I'll do a night shift tomorrow and 2 more nights after that. And then I get a few days off. So usually when I'm on nights, I can like umpire the next day that I'm off. Or if I'm on like a day shift, I can usually make like the second game for the doubleheader. So also just depends on what time your shift starts and ends. And that's about all for that question. And then my second question was about time commitment. And it stated, so I also play softball or have another part-time job. I have limited availability. Am I still able to umpire? And one of the great benefits of umpiring is there's no exact restrictions to the number of games you have to complete in a year. It's all dependent on what you want to put into it is what you're going to get out of it, kind of thing. So if your schedule only allows you to do like 1 game a week, or 1 game every other week, or 1 game even a month, that's completely fine. Whatever you're comfortable with is what you can do. No one's gonna really push you to do a whole bunch more unless you're eager to get more games and do more games. And if weeknights again aren't an option for you, there's always tournaments. And tournaments, they're a great learning environment. Usually a lot of the times I learned the most is from tournaments, because you have so many umpires in one facility together. They can all pick each other's brains, and you can get evaluated on your game and what went right, what didn't go great, and what you could change and grow on, which is amazing. So much learning to happen. And it's easy to get a lot of games back to back, and you can make more cash with tournaments. And more games you're going to do, the more confident you'll get to do more games. And a lot of our umpires have already played softball. I know Adrian W mentioned he didn't, but like my background, I played softball growing up since I was little. And then when I started out, I was playing softball and umpiring. And then it wasn't until really I got into university, and I was only playing as like a pickup for our team. And I just realized there's so much more. Like I could take my umpiring career so much farther than I could take my playing career. Like I can go to see Peru and like so many international countries with umpiring that I wouldn't really get to do with playing softball, which is why I decided just to start umpiring full-time. But it's all up to you wherever you want to take your career. It's just you have to get started somewhere, and the opportunities are really endless, as I mentioned Frankie going to the Olympics, which is about all I have.
Well, no, it's not, because we also have a scholarship program. Were you able to ever take advantage of that? Because post-secondary education, were you allowed to use it?
Yes, we do have scholarships from Softball Alberta and Softball Canada that I was able to apply on every year of my 4-year degree. I think I got it around once, as there was just a few other young umpires that were moving up with me, which more free money, especially for your degree, is not bad, because you want to try to come out in as little as debt as you can.
So Softball Alberta, Softball Canada,
Yeah.
And some of the associations have these scholarship programs or ways to access money from our program, and you took advantage of it. That's especially special because it helped you to get to the next step, and now you're a registered nurse. That's incredible.
Yeah. And no one's gonna push you to do games every single night. Like Terry Richter, he's our umpire in chief for our province, and he's already told me a few times, because I am starting to aspire to become like a level 5 one day. I'm actually going to the U19 Canadian Championships this year out in New Brunswick. And I mentioned in my past seasons, like I want to do more and like do a game and tournament every single weekend, but you're just gonna burn yourself out if you do it that. It's just like work. You need a work-life balance. You can't go.
That's terrific, and thank you for that. The other thing that I wanted to remind everybody of is Jeff is getting a group of questions together for our open mic. So please, if you have more questions, just looking for them on the chat. And Charday, are you done? Because that was neat.
Yeah.
Thank you. What's next, Jeff?
Well, I think we're in open mic time here. So I did receive some questions from people who signed up earlier, so that were not part of our official questions. So maybe we'll propose some of those now to the group of you, and keep the questions coming as we go along. If there are tough questions, we'll give you the tough answers. So first question is about how the income, how often you get paid, which we talked a bit about, and they're wondering how the pay works because I'm receiving EI or supports right now and trying to figure out what to do or how this would work. Maybe Chris, could you take a stab at what a good answer would be for that question?
Sure. So I'm going to start with the tougher one, which is the tax question, and tell you that everybody's different, and you really need to just check that out on your own with whoever does your taxes at the end of the year, especially if you are taking EI or you're taking any kind of a subsidy because of COVID. Talk to somebody who is actually knows your entire situation to give you the right advice. And then when do we get paid? How do we get paid? On the weekend tournaments, you're usually getting paid cash, and you're usually getting paid at the end of the tournament. And that cash might turn into an e-transfer, depending on how the host has organized the payment for the umpires. And then how do you get paid league games? Typically what's happening on league games is you're getting paid a check. And in Zone 4, for example, we're trying to do it twice. We're trying to do it after May, and then we're trying to do it after June. And that way, at least you got some cash halfway through the season to keep you going. And if you're making $700, basically you're getting that $350 twice. How's that, Jeff? Did I handle that properly? Is that what you wanted?
I guess one thing just to note is that as far as we currently, most associations, I think maybe all associations, don't issue any kind of a tax slip. So if the payments themselves are your responsibility as a taxpayer to report, we don't report those to the government in any shape or form.
And Jeff, by the way, is our unofficial accountant, so he actually knows what he's talking about.
Semi-retired, let's put it that way.
Yeah, there you go.
The next question is there a minimum number of games you need to work in a season to remain certified? Adrian, would you mind taking a stab at answering that one?
Yeah, sure. I think he meant me, I think.
Yes, Adrian, please. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So simple answer is no, you don't have a minimum number of games you have to work. Ideally, we'd like you to work a couple because then you're keeping your skills fresh and things like that. But we have people that have stepped away at times that still take their clinics for different reasons. We had a couple of people that were off at school that just they had practicums and things, but they couldn't handle umpiring and school at the same time. but your options are basically take a clinic. So right now, a clinic looks like our online portion that we do through ASUA that goes from April 2nd to 10th. I should know this because I'm on that committee. Chris, do I have that right?
Sorry, pardon me?
April 2nd to 10th. I think those are our clinic, online clinic dates.
Right now, the weekend of the 3rd and the weekend of the 9th. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got a set of junior and senior clinics there, and then a mechanics clinic put on by your zone. More traditionally, what it's been is a weekend clinic on a Saturday, Sunday, where you cover both the mechanics and the book stuff or the theory. Which, who knows, we might be back to that in a year. Those are kind of the clinics, and then we have exam requirements. So every year you have to take the exam. I think your first year, Chris, what's the minimum pass on a first year? Is there a minimum pass?
No, there is, but we're not talking about that because everybody
No,
passes because
nobody
that's the way we set up the first year.
Okay.
Getting in the second year, you do have a passing requirement.
Yeah. You've got a pass requirement year 2, year 1. We're not worried about whether you pass or not. We just want you to get out there and try, because not everyone is a book learner. If there's one thing I figured out through teaching, it's some people got to do it to figure it out. Some of my best lessons have been the falling on my face moments. I won't throw anyone under the bus.
Oh, come on. I earned it.
If you want to do that, you can do it yourself, but I've got a story on myself. Okay.
Right.
But my first men's game, I was 15 or 16. And I get told this guy, he pitched that ISC ball, which is basically semi-professional softball. I get out there and I have never seen someone throw a ball so hard. I've done U16 girls up to that point. And out of my mouth on the first pitch, ball, I think. I just heard whack. I have no idea what actually happened. But anyway, that's it.
Perfect. Thanks, Adrian. Next question is, are you all fast pitch umpires, or do you do slow pitch as well? Does the level 1 clinic cover both? Adrian too, or mini Adrian? I don't know. Do you want to give that one a try?
I sure can. So I am only a fast pitch umpire. I have not umpired a game of slow pitch. However, you certainly can do both, or you can just do slow pitch. The level 1 clinic from Softball Canada is designed to cover both fast pitch and slow pitch. A lot of these basic mechanics and things like that and positioning are very similar between the two, and you can transition fairly seamlessly. So there is certainly the option to do both. Fast pitch is generally tended to be recommended, especially for younger umpires, because, obviously there's minor fast pitch. There isn't really minor slow pitch to that same extent. But yeah, if you're taking your level 1, you're certified to do both. The only thing to watch out for is kind of which associations do slow pitch and which don't. So for example, the minor associations in Edmonton and Calgary aren't going to do slow pitch because there isn't minor slow pitch. However, the adult associations obviously will, and most of the other associations in the province will. So again, contact your local association to find out kind of what's available and what you can get into. But yes, once you have your level 1 clinic, you are good to do either.
Perfect. The next question is, how far in advance when you're scheduled to ump? And I think this kind of ties to time crunches and scheduling logistics. So Charday, you're probably the expert in this one there. Maybe you can kind of clarify how that works generally for scheduling.
Yeah, perfect. So it all depends on your local. I know here in Edmonton, our schedule, she usually tries to book a month in advance, but definitely with exhibition games and stuff, sometimes there can be a time crunch and not get as much of a heads up. I know when I was in zone 7 as a high school student, I usually had around like 2 weeks notice before the game I was doing. Sometimes even just like 3 days if an umpire backed out and they needed someone quickly to fill it. But if your schedule is limited, definitely speak to your scheduler and just be like, these are the nights I can only umpire. I really want to do so many games in a week. How can we try to make that work? They usually try to be fair and schedule around the same games for everyone, depending on what they want to do. So then they usually will try to help accommodate to your schedule depending on how limited it is. Yeah.
Perfect. That's a great answer. I guess how do you get trained? I guess is kind of the question is, but can you take more than one clinic in a year to get your certs faster? Mr. Harper, that might be a good one for a brief answer.
So absolutely no. Getting certified, Softball Canada set up a 5-level certification program. And to be very brief, we base it on years of service because we know that if you've been a level 1 umpire for 2 years, you're probably having gone through the right kind of games at the right level of ball so that you're ready to take on the level 3. Or pardon me, the level 2. And then we get you to start thinking about at that 16 age group, get you to work towards your level 3. And what level 3 really means is that you're ready to travel outside of the province and represent our province as an umpire. And that's pretty important to us older umpires. We want to make sure that you're really ready for that. But you got to be 18 in order to travel outside of the province. So that's where the level 3 kind of kicks in. And then you'll see some of the people on this call are level 4s. And what that means is they've been in the program for probably 5 or more years, because it takes about that long to get to that next step, and usually 6. And so now you want to be a level 5, and that can take another 4 years. So I would suggest that our program is designed to make sure you succeed, and it's us slowing you down more than anything else. And I think Adrian can probably answer that better than the rest of us. We spend more time slowing him down than we do telling him to go faster, because he eats up the good ball.
Which Adrian are we talking to?
You, both of you, actually, but I was actually thinking of the younger one to answer the question.
Okay, the next question, I'm going to put 2 questions together because they're both pretty quick answers, I believe. Can you do just local league games and not do tournaments? And how does the pay work when you have a mentor assigned to your diamond? Adrian W., are you okay with giving an answer on those? Mr. Adrian too?
Sorry, I missed the second part of that question. I heard the first one.
The second question was, how does pay work when it comes to having a mentor assigned to you? I guess the question is, does your pay change?
Gotcha. Okay, so first part of the question, absolutely, you can just do league ball and not do tournaments. Like Charday kind of mentioned in her piece, you are completely free to do basically kind of however much ball, however little ball you want. There's a very high degree of flexibility in what you're able to do. So like for myself, when I kind of first started umpiring, I had a couple of activities that conflicted on the weekends. So I was mostly just doing weekday ball, and that worked for me, and is probably something that can work for you as well. As for pay, if you have another mentor on the diamond, it does, again, vary by association and even potentially vary by league. Generally, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've seen, if you have 2 umpires on the diamond, there might be a very slight pay reduction, say from $40 to $35 per umpire. That's not always the case. And again, it will depend on league, but the important thing to remember is that all umpires on the diamond are treated equally. It's never going to be a case where one umpire is being paid more than another on a certain game, depending on whether you're doing plate or base or who has more seniority or anything like that. So like I said, it can vary by association a little bit, but generally it's going to be pretty similar to that kind of $25 to $40 range that was mentioned at the beginning.
Perfect. Yeah, we're not like some sports where during your training you don't get paid. That is not us. We actually get something. So,
and also one thing that's I think important to kind of key off of that as well is in a lot of other sports, like say soccer, where you have a ref and you have lines people, or even hockey, there'd be a pay differential in that kind of structure. That's not the case in umpiring. Plate umpires are not paid more than base umpires in a game. As far as I know anyway. I've never seen that in softball. I think that's the case in some baseball leagues, but it's certainly not the case here.
Perfect. Great answer. Well, here's the one that was implied earlier, but how do you deal with angry parents and coaches? Mr. Harper, I think that's probably the best for you, with Respect My Game being one of our initiatives across the province.
Yeah, we're going to call him the president, but we actually do talk about our president as being an umpire in chief. And our umpire in chief is very committed to this program called Respect My Game. And Respect My Game basically has a couple of elements. And one of them is that if somebody does anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, we're going to send Kessiah over to deal with them. Because what do you got to do, Kessiah? You just got to tell them, no, that's not acceptable on my diamond. And one of us is going to leave. And guess what? It's probably not going to be me. How do you deal with it, Kessiah?
I know for me, it was really great to have, especially when you're starting out, those mentor umpires. People don't really want to try something when they know that there's someone else there that's kind of supporting you as well. So parents and coaches aren't really going to argue with you so much when they know that there's an experienced umpire that's there that knows the rules even better than anyone else there as well. So yeah, it's
it's up to you as a person who is in charge of the game, which you are as a plate umpire and a base umpire, to let people know when you're not comfortable. So that means sometimes you go to both coaches and say, guys, I'm not feeling comfortable right now. So I'm thinking more about you guys than I am about balls and strikes. And that's probably not good for anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or coach, can you guys help me? Because these guys behind me are yelling at me and I might not be perfect, but that isn't helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But coaches cannot read your mind, and they're the only ones that can solve your problem in those situations.
Absolutely. And stand your ground, go to the coaches before you deal with the parents individually. And if the coaches are causing problems, just you have control of the field. It's not them. So.
And tell them they're making you feel uncomfortable, because most of the time the coaches are so engaged in the game and they're so excited that they don't realize that what they're doing is affecting your ability to do what you need to do for us.
Absolutely.
Jeff, hand it back to you.
All right, well, we got one more, I'll call it an easier question, and then one more general question to close things out for the group. So I'll give you the general question to think about as a panel, and then I'll answer the easy question, and then I'll give you the floor back, okay? The question for the group is, what is everyone's individual best piece of advice when it comes to umpiring? Just one quick 30-second gotcha. So give a thought about that while I answer this other question here. The question is, how does it work if you get scheduled and you can't make the game? Just to clarify, when most games are given to people, they're offered to the person, and that person has an opportunity to whether to accept that game or decline it before it's kind of on their plate. If for whatever reason you have accepted a game and something comes up where you can't make the game, obviously we want to see that game covered. You need to let your assigner know as early as possible so they can see if they can find somebody else to replace you. Worst case scenario, you can't make the game. As long as we know ahead of time and don't just no-show, then we can at least let the teams know that there may not be an umpire at their game, and they can work around that in any other case. So, okay. So I'm going to go in the order of the people that are on my screen right now, which I think is everybody's order. So Adrian 1, or Dressy Adrian, what would your answer be to what is the best piece of advice that when it comes to umpiring that you could give?
Be a sponge. Every chance you get some help, get some advice, find stuff that challenges you. I mean, I could go down the street to a ballpark here and do a game that I could probably do pretty easily, or I can hop on a drive and drive down to Edmonton or Irma or one of these smaller communities where they've got some tough ball, and I'll find some people to give me advice there. Make sure that you've got a willingness to learn.
So it sounds like you're also saying that you basically never stop learning.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point. Okay, Chris, what is your best piece of advice when it comes to umpiring?
You're never going to be perfect. Get over it fast. And if somebody makes you feel uncomfortable, you got to tell them, because they can't read your mind.
Very valid, very valid. Okay, Kessiah, same question. What do you think is the best piece of advice that you can give?
Sure. Do as much as you can. Get out there and as well be willing to learn, ask so many questions, and don't be afraid to make mistakes as you go along, because you'll just keep learning.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Adrian W., how about you?
It's a little easier said than done, but try your best to let things roll off your back and remember that it's just a game. I think it's too easy to get in your own head, and I know I can definitely be a bit of a perfectionist in a lot of aspects in my life. And when you get into that mindset in umpiring, you can beat yourself up for a long time for not performing to your best in a game. And when you do that, you're not going to do as good on the next game either. So trying to clear your head, remembering it's just a game, and trying your best next time from kind of a fresh slate is the best advice I can give.
Yeah, and I think that even applies in the middle of a game. You know, you have a
100%. Every pitch is almost a new game in and of itself.
Yeah, you just got to let it go. What happened last inning and continue on with the game. It's so important. Yeah. Charday, your closing thoughts.
Perfect. Yeah, my biggest thing, I'd say it's, again, harder than you say, but just go to the diamond and be confident. Even though it may be your first game, try to have some confidence and it will get you through it. I remember still doing my first U10 provincials. I was on the diamond by myself, U1 system, which can be really hard, but I had my mentor out in the stands watching me, and there was one play where the gear was running back, came home, and I wasn't fully sure what to make for my call. Both coaches were asking. I sent both of them to their diamond just so I could have a few seconds to reflect on the situation and basically have a conference with myself, and then ended up bringing both coaches out and explained them my ruling, which made sense to me. I ended up, after that, when I went to talk to my mentor, I botched the call. I did not make it right, but I learned from it, and that was the biggest thing. I had confidence on the diamond and explained it to the coaches in a reasonable, understanding way. A lot of times coaches aren't going to know the rule book front to back, especially when they're doing U10, U12, and you're starting out. So go out there, have some fun, and hopefully see you on the ball diamond.
Awesome. Well, I don't see any more questions, and we're at our time commitment at this point here. If there were some questions that I didn't get a chance to air, feel free to email myself, the webmaster at asua.ca. Let's go to the next slide there quickly, Adrian.
Yep, just I gotta find my mouse here. There we go.
There we go. So we have our website of resources. On there is my information and my email. On the website is a link with all the zones and the cities under the Contact Us page. So if you're not sure what zone you're in, click on that link and you can figure out what zone you're in. There's also links to other websites for the other chapters within the province that fall under ASUA. Use the search website, use the search function. There's a little magnifying glass in the top right. If you're interested in something, key in a word like award or equipment, any of those, and search the website and you'll find information on there. And also the calendar function is quite powerful. We include all events that are sanctioned by the province, tournaments, not necessarily all league play, but all tournaments that are sanctioned by the province, provincials, Canadians. They're all on there, so you can you can see what's going on in your area. All right, and then Chris, I think it's up to you to close it off on the next slide.
Perfect. So if we can get to the next slide. So if you still have questions, then what we want you to do is we want you to get a hold of us by email, and we'll answer any other questions, or phone us and we'll answer any questions that you have. The best resource for clarifying specific questions about how does this work and how does that work is going to be your local representative. So from here, you've taken the first step, which is a big step, which is saying, hey, I want to look into this. I want to see what it's about. The next step is much simpler. It's go and register. Come to a clinic. It's free. And see what it's about. See what the level 1 theory is all about. And you'll figure out that it's really kind of simple, because the game is not that complicated. What's complicated is managing the game when you're doing higher levels of ball, because then it's a lot more interesting. There's a lot more going on, and there's a lot of people that want you to do something that you just can't do, because that's not arbitrating the game fairly. So you did the big thing coming and listening to us. I hope we've shed some light on the fact that all of us are having fun. Have you seen anybody in this presentation that wasn't smiling? We enjoy what we do, and we'd love to have you guys join us, and we'd like to meet you. So how do you do that? Sign up. Go back to the website, say, hey, I want to be an umpire, fill in the information, and we'll have the zone representative get a hold of you. Jeff, I think I'm done. What do you got?
I think that was very informative, and you guys were very well spoken this whole time. And if I, as a new umpire, trying to obtain, if I'm on the fence whether I was going to become an umpire or not, I'd feel a lot more comfortable after listening to you guys and your experiences and what you've been through. I think we do have one more slide, Adrian. Basically, what's next? Well, if we've convinced you that this is something you'd like to try, there's clearly, first of all, there's no commitment. You can see if it's something you enjoy. Let us give you a chance to train you, give you some of the tools to empower you to learn all these new skills and developing a presence on the diamond. And we can only do that if you give us a chance. So next step is, if you come on to the website, go to become an umpire, fill out that form. If you've done it before and you haven't been contacted, do it again. And we'll make sure that this time somebody follows up with you, gets you the information you need. And like we said earlier, there's a clinic, a bunch of clinic options, 5 different options available in April for junior umpires. Weekends, weeknight for you. The sessions, because it's being done on this year, are not as long as they were in the past. So count your blessings that way. But it just means that we're going to have probably a bit more on-field training happening, because you can't do that. You can't learn in a book, and you can't learn watching it. You got to only learn by doing this. And it's a skill you just don't pick up immediately, but we'll be there for you. Chris, what do you think? Anything else to add?
Yeah, I'm going to close off by saying everybody who signs up, I personally get that email. And I personally hand that email off to the person in the zone that needs to follow up with you. And I send you an email back that says, if you don't hear from them, call me and you'll have my number.
That's great.
We'd love to have it, new umpires. We'd love to get you guys on the diamond to see how much fun it can be.
Perfect. Well, I think that ends the session. We will be putting written answers to some of the detailed questions that we had earlier up on the website in due time. And this video will be available for replay on YouTube once we get a chance to process this and upload it. So thank you, presenters, and everybody who attended, for your time. We owe you 10 minutes of your life back. So maybe at the clinic you'll earn that back there if we do a better job there. But there's a lot of exciting other umpires you haven't met waiting to meet you at these online clinics and teach you the skills you need to be successful. So they look forward to meeting you too. So thanks everybody for your time, and have a great evening.
Have fun, guys.